Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to if you grew up in the 1950s, you remember this, Life in America. This is definitely the furthest back I've gone because I think the 60s I've done a few on, 70s I've done more, 80s I've done even more, and so on and so forth. But 1950s, this would have been around the time my grandparents would have grown up. I think they were born in the 40s, the mid to early 40s. So they would have, yeah, these would have been their years, the decade they really probably remember growing up in most. And yeah, I don't know much of what will be on here. It's obviously it's World War Two was 19 and ended in the mid 40s, so it's 5 years on from that, and then I guess rebuilding on from that, because obviously especially Europe would have been a lot more troubled, I feel like, in the 50s than maybe the US because of having to rebuild from the wars and stuff. But I don't think the US was really attacked on its own land, so it would have been okay in that sense. But yeah, life in the US in these times, I guess we're going to learn. I find these videos so fascinating, just looking back at things that beforehand I would have had no clue, but it gives you a little sense of how life was in these times, and it's just fascinating. But we're going to jump into this. Links are also in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more of my reactions, but let's check this out.
The 1950s were a charming decade, a time where everything seemed so simple. There was always something fun to do, and if you were bored, you could just walk on over to your friend's house and see what they were up to. You just had to make sure you were home by the time the streetlights came on. If you were lucky enough to grow up during this period, you will most likely remember these unique moments that are quintessential 1950s. Growing up in this decade meant spending a lot of time outside, riding bikes, playing sports, street games, and climbing trees. Do you remember clipping a baseball card to the spokes of your bike so it would purr as you sped down your block?
See, I used to do this with cans. You'd put like I guess like an empty Coke can, squish it up, and then you'd put it on the back. It would sound like a motorbike. I used to love doing that, but I guess it's just with cards instead.
You grew up with toys that sparked creativity and imagination. You appreciated simple toys like hula hoops, Lincoln Logs, Play-Doh, and Mr. Potato Head.
Were these all made in that era?
Board games like Scrabble, Yahtzee, and Sorry were also popular during this time. Kids also enjoyed playing the card game Old Maid. You would even have milk delivered right to your door.
Milkmen, they're still a thing though, aren't they? They're rare, but my grandparents still have them, I'm pretty sure. They have them up until recently. And I swear, there used to be a milkman that used to go down my street when I was going to, I think, primary school, so I'd probably be like 9, 10. And I've not seen them for years in the city. They are still a thing somewhat, but they're definitely nowhere near as common because obviously people are just going to the shops. But yeah, the more you think about it, they have slowly died out even from when I was young. But obviously in these times they would have been as active as they ever would have been, because obviously this is probably the easiest way to get this sort of stuff in these times.
The milkman may have had a horse and cart, and you would hear the clip-clop of his horse and the clink of the bottles on the neighbor's doorsteps as he made his way down your street. On occasion, you may have even gotten chocolate milk as a treat.
I loved chocolate milk. I think they got chocolate milk a few times, my grandparents, and it was always so good.
A lunch staple of the time was the Fluffernutter sandwich.
What?
The sandwich was made with 2 slices of bread layered with peanut butter and marshmallow fluff. Sometimes the sandwich even included a sliced up banana.
What the hell? So that's before the times of peanut butter and jelly, or was peanut butter and jelly a thing in these times as well? Marshmallow and peanut butter? Oh, I don't know about that one.
Every Sunday night, you flipped on your parents' brand new black and white TV, cozied up on the couch with your family, and settled in for an hour of entertainment, watching The Ed Sullivan Show. Some other popular shows were I Love Lucy, Howdy Doody, and Gunsmoke. TV channels used to actually sign off at the end of every night. Some would even close programming by playing the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, wow.
The best way to see movies at the time were drive-in movies.
Bro, I don't drive, but I've never even seen a drive-in movie before. Drive-in theatre before. Like, I've never seen one in wherever I've gone past. I don't know if they're even a thing in the UK. I've never looked for it, but they would be quite cool to go to. It'd be just a nice, different experience to just go into the cinema, you know?
It was the perfect family outing. Your family would park their car, grab a speaker or tune in on the radio, and enjoy movies all summer long. Another summer favorite was hearing the ice cream truck jingle coming down the road.
This was still fun when I was a kid. Don't take this away from me. This was still so exciting when I was a kid. I used to love hearing the ice cream van. And they are still a thing. They're definitely not as common, but they are still a thing. For sure. I've seen them recently that they will drive around the area to obviously try and get people to get ice creams, but
which was more than likely a good humor ice cream truck. Neighborhood kids would keep an ear out for the songs and sounds of the ice cream man, so they could go ask for money from mom. Do you remember pretending to smoke those fake candy cigarettes?
I still can't get over the packaging for these.
Buying fake coconut tobacco? Charleston Chews, Bazooka Gum, Necco Wafers, Bit-O Honey, Atomic Fireballs, Root Beer Barrels, and Candy Buttons were other popular candies of the 1950s, and most only cost a penny.
A penny?
Most everyone had classic black and white saddle shoes.
Saddle
and of
shoes.
course, you kept them so well shined you could practically see your reflection in them. Saddle shoes were a perfect accessory to poodle skirts, but also looked good with jeans.
Poodle skirts?
The poodle skirt was a colorful, full, swingy skirt that typically hit just below the knee. It was commonly made of felt fabric and held an image of a poodle.
Is that the poodle on the lead as well? Or on the leash? How do you say leash in the US, right? The dog on the leash, or do you say lead? Dog on the. I think it's an interchangeable one, to be fair, but that's the lead, right?
It's the name. A notable place to hang out with your friends or to take a date on a Friday night was your local soda fountain. These were counter-style restaurants that served soft drinks and ice cream and often had a jukebox in the corner.
Is this where Coke floats came from? Because I tried them and I know what they are like, but would this have been sort of the places that they would have been originating from? Because I guess you just mix the two together.
The typical high school dance saw teens removing their shoes and dancing in their socks to protect the gymnasium floor. Nicknamed sock hops, these dances gave way to a number of popular dances, including the hand jive, the stroll, the box step, and most famously, the twist.
The twist.
S&H green stamps were grocery stamps that were used as a reward system for shopping at certain stores. Families would collect the stamps, which ranged in value from 1 to 50 points, and they placed them in a booklet. Once that booklet was full, it could be redeemed for products from their catalogs or picked up at one of their locations. Rotary phones were the phones of the time. You had just one, and it may have been a party line shared with a neighbor. You'd have different numbers, but if you picked up and they were talking, you'd just have to wait to make your call. If you wanted to reach a business or acquaintance, flipping through a thick stack of phone book pages was your best bet.
Damn.
Marilyn Monroe was the most glamorous girl you'd ever seen.
Where would you see Marilyn Monroe? Would she be on like TV and stuff, or was she just in like the magazines, etc.? I don't know, because obviously in these times there was a lot just less ways to view anything. To be honest, again, it would be through magazines, newspapers, or TV. But that was so like the TV channels were so. I think there's just one channel at this point, right? and they went on all the time and all this sort of stuff. How would you like view these celebrities and stuff? And were there really such thing as celebrities even in these times? I guess the occasional celebrities like models and stuff, but like sports stars, would they be considered celebrities? And also, when was sports first on TV in the US and all those kind of things? I just wonder. It's weird to just look back because now you've just got access to it so easily, but it's easy to think that 60, 70 years ago it was not like that at all.
From her auburn waves to her curvy shape, she was 50s perfection. Elvis Presley, on the other hand, helped start the rock craze, and his pompadour hair was iconic. While in school, paper copies were made using mimeographs. Not only did it create a unique purple ink, but it also had a unique smell to it that most everyone enjoyed. Long before ellipticals were invented, women wrapped various body parts around a belt that promised to jiggle their fat right off.
What?
It didn't work, and they quickly lost their appeal by the end of the decade.
What the? No way. So they just like go like that with it, and then they get the fat off.
Rainy days were prime time for some reading time when comics went 3D in the 1950s. The Mighty Mouse comic book even came with a pair of space goggles. Children loved the effect of putting on these glasses to discover a magical world growing from the book's pages. Covering your Christmas tree in tinsel was a happy tradition. There's something about the tinseled tree, old train car toys, and the wooden sleds of the time that can really bring you back. If you grew up during the 50s, many of these things should be familiar to you.
The 50s, man. Almost anyone with a high school education could easily find a job, and if desired, keep it for an entire year. And with that job alone, he could buy a house. I mean, yeah, that's definitely one of the horrible things around the current times, man. It's actually just sad. Looking at this comment makes me sad, like, of how it is now. I don't know how bad it is in the US. But the UK, the house buying situation is an absolute mess. It's actually horrible. Like growing up and like the idea of being able to own your own house, sort of, it sounds insane. Like it's a dream. Obviously, it would be a dream for anyone, right? But the actual possibilities of it in these times would just be flipping. It would just be so much easier. But not easier. It would just be so much more accessible and possible. My wife and I both grew up in the 50s. We watched TV shows from that time and wish so much we could go back to when the world made sense. My era, I remember it all. So sad to see how far down our country's gone. To be fair, I can't really speak from the perspective of the US because I've never been there. So, but I do see it's just one of these type of things, right? You sort of look back and you miss your childhood and miss all the things that you used to do. You know. It must be very frustrating for someone growing up in these times of the 60s or 70s and just having it now, because it definitely isn't as positive in a lot of ways. Don't get me wrong, the world is better in some ways, but it's just there's so many things now that just cause problems and all these kinds of things. But it is what it is, right? But a look at the 50s and damn, looks like a good time to be alive. Obviously, these videos show just the positives. I'm almost certain that the negatives would also be there too. And again, like in Europe, it would have been a completely different ball game in the sense of I feel like it would be a much harder period to grow up in, especially the 50s. But yeah, it differentiates from country to country, etc. But yeah, this was an interesting look into it, and yeah, let me know your thoughts. If you're from this era, let me know your thoughts as well, and until next time, peace.